Welcome to the Sprig Podcast, your source for the most relevant topics in pediatric dentistry. I'm your host, Dr. Jarod Johnson. Today on the show, we have a very special guest. We have Brenda Hansen, CEO and co-founder of Sprig, and I'm really excited because she just won a big award from Benco. She is a winner of the Lucy Hobbs Award for Innovation, and I wanted to bring her on the show to share with us her journey through pediatric dentistry and the impact, because without these zirconia crowns, I don't think we would have a solution that's anywhere nearly as aesthetic as what we have today. And recently, just at my office, we had a mom from 2.5 hours away that found us because we're an easy crown provider, and she wants that for her kid. So first, congratulations and thank you, and welcome on the podcast today.
Thank you, Jarod. Thank you for the kind words. And I was pretty surprised and honored to get the award.
So I just want to start, because this has been a journey for you. This has been, you put your career on the side and took this risk to create First Easy Pedo, which is now Sprig Oral Health Technologies. What happened to your son that started all of this? I know a lot of people know it, but not everyone does out there.
Yeah. So, it started with our son, John Paul, when he was a toddler. He had an accident. He was in the shower with me, and the door to the shower popped open, and he fell and hit his basically his teeth on the ceramic ledge or the tile ledge. He damaged his front four teeth, and basically we took him to the pediatric dentist in our area. They did two strip crowns on the laterals, and then two pre-veneered stainless steel on the centrals. The strip crowns fell apart and they needed to be repaired, I don't know, probably 3 times. And then the pre-veneered stainless steel basically chipped and discolored, even to the point where John Paul was probably in first or second grade and just saying, when do I get my new teeth? He noticed them, that they just were kind of raggedy a little bit. So when he got those restorations put on, we were really surprised. We thought that there had to be some other options out there, but we found out there were not. So we worked with Dr. Fisher, my partner at Sprig. At the time, he did anesthesia on our adult patients for full mouth reconstructive aesthetic cases. So we developed the prototypes in our in-office lab, and Jeff took those prototypes into his pediatric offices, and they loved them. So then we had to really figure out what to do with this idea and get it into production. So, and it took a lot to get it through regulatory clearance for a medical device. So there was a lot of work that had to be done in between the time that we knew we had a good prototype and actually taking it to market. But it really did start with John Paul and a need for in pediatric dentistry. I guess the industry had basically been unchanged for 20 years, so we really disrupted the whole industry of pediatric dentistry at that point.
Yeah, it probably had to be like nerve-wracking at the same time as exciting, because you don't know how well something's going to be accepted that's new. I know there's a lot of new things that are coming out with airway and SDF and different
Mhm.
techniques that people are still trying to figure out. And I'm sure you were in that situation where it's kind of scary, where this is going to be your business, and I applaud it. So risk takers get rewarded, and you definitely took that risk. I always wonder, like, how did you guys, I know you worked in a cosmetic dentistry practice, but how did you decide on zirconia as the material for prefabricated crowns for kids?
Well, there was, I guess, that familiarity in adult dentistry. Zirconia was already being used in adult dentistry. I think the major factor for us was just that it was biocompatible. It was going to be a really safe material. Secondary is definitely the aesthetics and the strength factors. So John, at the time, material science was really his strong point. So he knew a lot about materials, and that was just the focus that him and Jeff decided on.
And you said it was also a process. So I know I was for the APD, we did a virtual thing with Dr. Andy and Dr. Fisher. And I went and I got some of the first crowns you guys made for Easy Pedo University
Hmm.
that I had kept since residency. And I had the same size crown because I had the whole kit with me for
Yeah.
the episode. And the innovation that you guys have made, you can just see the difference between those crowns and think, wow, like how did you guys how long did it take you to make the first one? And then you're probably not stopping with, improving things as you see fit, but geez, that's quite the change that you've made and improved the product and made it better for kids and easier for dentists to place, which is a win-win for everyone. But how long did it take to get that first one in someone's mouth?
Well, I guess that's the a differentiator there. So the first crown to sell was approximately 7 years of R&D. Working with two dentists, they had specific requirements and they knew the pains of dentistry. And so we definitely didn't want to put a product on the market that wasn't going to be a real solution. So the R&D process took about 7 years until we took it to market in 2010.
That's a long time. I didn't realize. I know Sprig's been around for, you celebrated 10 years last year, I believe, or was it 2 years
Mhm.
ago? Time just
I think
flies.
it's I think it's getting close to 2 years now. Yeah, it
So yeah.
was 2020. Yeah.
So that's a long time to just get to the point where you can open a business, and it must have been a ton of work like we've been talking
Yeah.
about. So, you
Yeah.
know, thanks again for doing that for our kids. And you've also launched quite a few new products since then. And what I really like about your company is you're really about biocompatibility and health. And I remember when you guys were coming out with your MTA product, and
Mhm.
I think you guys hit a slam dunk there with selecting that. And I use it almost every day at my office, and it's just a great resource for kids, and I love it. And I that's one of my favorite things. I probably couldn't practice without. And then you also have developed a HemeRx to kind of complement the crown and the bleeding issue and cementation.
Mhm.
How did you move into newer markets after you had already established yourself as the go-to for zirconia crowns for kids?
Yeah, I think that, developing the Easy Crown, it took so long and perfecting it and getting it to market. It was a little bit easier getting additional products into our portfolio, but our driving force has always been to make healthier and safer options for pediatric dentistry. So we really do live by that. So whenever we're considering a new product to start under development, we're always looking for safer and healthy options for children. Um, and just making the practice of pediatric dentistry easier for you guys because it's already hard enough, right?
Yeah, and I think also, I mean, you're helping people put the bottle of former creosol on the shelf, and I
Yeah,
love using it in permanent teeth, but that's a huge reason. I know people have concerns about that. I talk a lot about how people are afraid of fluoride and BPA, and if they knew we were putting that in kids'
I
teeth,
know,
they would just go nuts. So
right?
I think we'll get there here within the next few years. I think your crowns also disrupted the industry, but I think they also created a problem, and you came up with the solution because you had this new product out, and it's not the same prep as a SSC. It's not the same prep as an adult crown. It starts off that way,
Mhm,
but it doesn't finish that
mhm.
way. Did you feel like there were some challenges that doctors had, and is that why you decided to create Sprig University?
Yeah, for sure. Coming from a dental background, there's always new products coming out, and I know even with the adult practice, I think we had a product come out and we were an early adopter and then come to realize it didn't work and having to redo treatment. That's just never a happy moment for the dentist. So of course, the pediatric dentists were going to be cautious from the beginning when we launched, but many products had made those lefty the products had made those big promises and failed to deliver. So we just had to prove ourselves with the crowns, and I think we have definitely here. we're 10 years later, and things are just really growing fast. And that's one of the biggest challenges right now, is just managing the growth, keeping the production up, and still keeping our customer service at a level that we like to keep it. So yeah, but they were cautious, and rightfully so. Yeah.
I feel like no matter what crown you choose, whether you choose a competitor or your crown, I think your crowns, I've already talked about this over and over, are definitely the choice, the go-to, not just because of the first, but because of the way they look, because of the ease of placement, because of the Zerlock. I mean, that's the number one for me, is you don't have the crown come off because you've got mechanical retention. There's only
Hmm.
one competitor on the market that has a true mechanical retention like yours, and it's not even like
Hmm.
yours. There's not as many grooves and undulations in it, and I think that's a big selling point. And if you just look at your crowns next to some of the other ones, I mean, I see pictures on Instagram of other doctors' work, and I can tell what brand it is, and I know when it's not when it's not the Sprig brand, that it just doesn't have that chromatic finish and that
Yeah.
sheen. And you guys came to my office and did some pictures of my patients. They're on all of our login screens. I just see that, and
Hmm.
it's beautiful. So
Yeah. There
um,
really is a
I
difference. I think so
I
too.
I think the education that you guys have done. I attended your at the time it was Easy Pedo University twice
Hmm.
in residency,
Hmm.
and I think that's really where your skills start with these crowns. And I think once you get the understanding of what to do and how to do it, and you do more of it, you just get more comfortable and better. I mean, at this point, it's so easy to do on the D through G for me in the operating room. I've been able to cut my case time down, but I wouldn't be able to do that if I just had bought the product. So, can you talk a little bit more about, I guess, Sprig University, the CE you do online, and also I think you're going to have Sprig Live again this year. So,
Yeah.
what courses have you guys developed to help support dentists? And also, I'll ask another question at the same time. What has been your favorite experience or memory uh, from that type of experience?
Okay. Well, it's kind of a loaded question here, but it's amazing how the path that your life takes and all that experience that you get really feeds into where you're going in the future. But we really had a strong um, background in dentistry before Sprig, and even with that, involved in education, whether it was smile design or prepping for big cases and whatnot. So we knew the value of education. Um, and I think with dental schools, they're a few years behind usually on the curriculum, but that's understandable. I mean, they're not going to just jump on the bandwagon and teach something, and then maybe some negative feedback comes back. So they really do have to have some strong footing on the curriculum they do provide. But with that, I think it creates a gap for the dentists who are doing, dentistry every day, and parents and adults alike want the latest and greatest. So there's that gap, and we knew with a new product and an innovative product, we were going to have to provide some sort of education in order for the dentist to, one, completely understand the product, and two, really get comfortable using it, because it was a little bit of a learning curve, and we saw so much success with Sprig U, as far as with the doctors taking the course, and then they just become faster and faster doing the treatment, and then eventually they're not doing this technique anymore, and they're doing all zirconia crowns. So it definitely has proven itself. um, Sprig Live is great because it's a multidisciplinary a program, and we invite the auxiliary and the team there. And it's nice to get away. We've always been a big believers on going to educational programs with your team, because then you're going to have your team's buy-in. So that's why we developed Sprig Live. Also, have done a lot of virtual things. Definitely, COVID really brought that to the forefront. I think we were very prepared with the virtual events because we had already been working on them. But I think my favorite thing is really just of the experience is meeting these dentists, and they really do become part of the Sprig family. We're not here. We're not just the tourist model. We want people part of our Sprig family for life. So, and we want to support them through their careers. So, I think that's just my favorite part is getting to know people on a deeper level in a small group.
Yeah, and you've continued that. I know you have a private Facebook group now for graduates of the program, which is getting more and more active, and people are asking more and more questions and being collaborative there. And I also want to just piggyback on something that you just said about like bringing the team to things. I just last week I spent my evenings taking Anissa Holmes,
Hmm.
delivering Dental Wow. I took her boot camp,
Oh,
and it was amazing. I'd love to have her on the
uh-huh.
podcast here.
Yeah.
I'll reach out to her and see if we can get her on. But
Yeah.
she said, "Do you believe in sealants?" And everyone said yes. But why aren't you doing them for on the permanent teeth? And everyone's insurance
Mm.
doesn't cover it. But do you believe in them? Do you believe it'll benefit the patients? So I took that back to my staff meeting, which I also learned from this podcast from Kathy Jameson, who's one of your good friends.
Hmm.
And I said, "Do you guys believe in sealants?" And they go, "Yeah." And I said, "So why aren't we doing more of them? If we
Yeah.
believe this is going to be good for our patient and I see an incipient lesion that this can prevent,
Yeah.
why aren't you guys push me? Just say,
Hmm.
doctor, let's do it today." And you can go back and I think today I did on the first two patients, I did 16 sealants.
Wow. And they're so
And
easy to do, right?
they're so easy and that just increased our production immensely. So
Yeah.
the other thing is I asked them if they believe in Hall crowns and on kids that are not cooperative that we don't want to take to the hospital. And they go, yeah. And I
Hmm.
said, so why am I trying to do nitrous if you know they're not going to do it and you're looking at me like I'm crazy?
Yeah.
And so we've started to do more same day treatment, increase our production and free up things for other kids that, could sit for a zirconia crown or another
Hmm.
procedure that we, need to schedule a different way. So
Yeah.
I think definitely, having your staff buy in and then seeing the things that Sprig's doing it's really key. I know one of my staff today said, "Oh, Sprig gave their employees off for Veterans Day. She's following them. She's staying up to date with them." So just thank
Yep.
you again for that. There's two other kind of things that you do with CE. One of
Hmm.
them, you used to have the magazine Shift, and you guys are also an eco-friendly company. So you've
Yeah.
changed your packaging this year, and then you've also moved away from a printed edition of Shift into a digital blog, which I think is outstanding because the information is on demand, and you don't have to go and thumb through the magazine or the issue to find out what article you want. It also shows up on Google. So I think it's a great move. But what was the major decision to move it into the digital world?
Yeah. Well, this one kind of makes me laugh a little bit because I love paper. I'm not I think it's because of my age. I'm just a little different era, but I love paper. I read real books. I print articles and read them. I read the paper copies if I need to. But just recently, I don't know what happened. I had a big shift, and it's like the more digital we can go, the better. But the real reason, I think one of the reasons that we shift to a blog format was the sustainability factor. I think the smaller imprint that we can have on this planet, the better. And what we saw was like people were reading the articles online. And so it was like, okay, here we are spending all this money on print costs, and it's beautiful, and everybody loves a paper copy. But I just think it makes sense. You can't ignore the market, you can't ignore the data, and we certainly don't want to ignore our customers and what they want. So it just made sense. It just made sense to turn it into a digital blog. And there's just more that we can do with it in that respect too. So yeah, it just made sense.
Yeah,
But
it's like
I still
dentistry's going
secretly love
digital,
her.
everything's going digital. I listen to audiobooks on Audible. I don't have the paper copy, but
Oh,
it makes me mad when I've got a paper copy book and I can't get the audio recording of it
oh
on
yeah,
audio because no one's done the work to read it. And usually it lags
true.
about 2-3 months for the author to read it. But
Oh,
I'm kind of the opposite, I guess. You might be right. maybe it's a little bit generational, but I do like the print as well because you can frame
Mhm.
that and put it up in your office. So I
Mhm.
will miss that, but I definitely love that it's online and you can
Yeah.
search Google and find it very easily.
Awesome. That's good.
The last education piece was, I think it was 2 years ago. I got on the call with you and we discussed this
Yeah.
project and the podcast. And
Mhm.
at the time, it was new and you weren't sure where it was going to go. Neither did I. And I
Mhm.
didn't know what you're going to think. And you guys decided to take a huge risk because, who am I? I'm just a pediatric dentist that wants to get on and talk
Yeah.
about dentistry and things that are exciting. um, why did you decide to move forward with it? And how do you think it has turned out? Because we're still going here and I love it. It's great to be on the show, prepare agendas for our guests, and you guys
Yeah.
take such good care of them. And I've heard so many great things from my colleagues on LinkedIn, and just
Mhm.
I
Me
try to
too.
share those with you all the time that I when I can, and I just appreciate you taking the risk. But what made you guys make that decision?
I think we saw a trend just like everybody with podcasts. And I think the real value, you're not just a pediatric dentist, Jarod, you're actually a pediatric dentist who has a lot to share and a lot to give. And I think with any podcast, it's like, okay, what kind of content are you going to deliver? And I think there was a niche that needed to be served with your content and the podcast that you wanted to do. So I believed in it, and I think I'm so grateful we did the work that we did. We did a lot of recordings up front, but then when COVID hit and everything went virtual, we were fully prepared and we were able to produce some other content that was more relevant for the time. When COVID hit, we the Sprig team internally, we just wanted to know how we could give back to the dental community. We have a wider range of resources. We have a full HR team on our team and accounting and whatnot. And it's like, okay, so how can we share the information that we're getting to maybe a solo practitioner that really needed some help during those times? So, luckily you were available and we were able to produce that content that was really all about giving back during those crazy, crazy times. So, yeah, I believed in what you wanted to do, and I definitely think there's a need to put relevant content out there that's serving a purpose.
Yeah, I think my favorite thing that I didn't expect to come out of this is, you know, you and I
Hmm.
you at Sprig and I were about relationships.
Hmm.
I remember when you guys came to Muscatine, we had your
Hmm.
whole team over to our house and we had
Yeah.
dinner and that artichoke dip that you like, but we're all about
Yep.
relationships. And I feel like everyone that has come on the podcast has started to form a relationship with either me or Sprig. And I think that is just it just speaks to the way that Sprig treats people and how they carry themselves. And I am really, really hopeful it'll come to fruition that some of our guests on the podcast will be at Sprig Live here next
Hmm.
year. That would be awesome to see that start from meeting on a podcast to coming and delivering world quality continuing education at Sprig Live. And
Hmm.
I think that would, as Shift was once here, be icing on the cake. So I
Hmm.
hope I'll work at it. I hope we can get them there. And we have some other guests. We have a great lineup coming up that we're going to be, working to finish this season off with. So I'm excited to push through this and then get through the end of the year, and then we can start recording some again. So thank you again for taking the risk. It's really been a pleasure. The last part of the Lucy Hobbs Award, besides
Hmm.
we talked a little about the innovation in the Easy Crown, the HemeRx, the Smart MTA, your education, but there's also a humanitarian part that Sprig offers. And I know you just got appointed to the California Dental Foundation's board of directors.
Hmm.
Congratulations on that. But can you tell me about what Sprig does for their give? I know Laura Malley from Wonder Stage Agency is huge on a give. We have done a ton of giving in my office this year. It feels awesome when you can give back, deliver service. You just talked about how to give back to the pediatric community during COVID.
Hmm.
What are some of the things that you're excited about? How did you get involved with the foundation? And then what are some things that you really like doing with your position at Sprig?
Yeah, so there's two different foundations basically. So there's the California Society of Pediatric Dentistry Foundation, which is trying to bridge the gap in education from what they're getting in dental school to maybe getting out in private practice and some other things that they need to know. Then there's the CDA Foundation, which I've been involved in, and that's the California Dental Association Foundation. CDA Foundation, I just love that organization because my family and I experienced it firsthand what they do. They basically do free dentistry in California. I'm in California, close to the capital, Sacramento, and the CDA headquarters is in Sacramento. So we initially got involved with the foundation because we wanted to some Sprig wanted to contribute to their cause and what they were doing. So I think we started with just donating product. And then we went down there and listened to the keynote with the volunteers. And at that point, it was like, oh my gosh, we need to volunteer. So me and John and the three kids, we all went down to San Jose and spent the weekend, and it was one of the best things we had ever done. I mean, John Paul, I think, was 8 at the time, and he even was volunteering, entertaining the kids before they went into the treatment rooms or just handing out meals to the volunteers. So I love that organization. I think they do great things by giving free dentistry to Californians. I'm sure there's other states that do this too. Well, circling back to Sprig's Give, we try to align ourselves with children's organizations with whatever we're doing. We try to find one local organization, one state, one national, and one international. So our local charity that we work with is right in Loomis, where we're located. They're called Kononia, and they provide services for foster kids. So we do a lot of things with them throughout the year. The state would be like CDA Cares. The national, we usually pick something around where the AAPD location is. We'll find a charitable organization in that city. So this year we'll be looking for something in San Diego, and we'll do something for them. And then internationally this year, we've I guess I can sprinkle this. Hopefully, Cynthia doesn't get mad at me. But one of our doctors in Utah, he has an organization called Masons Gives, and so they take trips down to Guatemala. So Sprig is planning a trip to Guatemala with volunteers and our team. We're also going to combine Sprig University with this program too. So not only can you give back by doing some dentistry there, but you're also going to learn how to use the Sprig products. And we'll be taking all our supplies down there too. So I think we're also taking hygienists and assistants. So this is going to be pretty exciting for us in 2022. So I don't know if anybody has any questions, reach out to Cynthia at Sprig.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's going to be a hot ticket. So I
Yeah.
can tell you that is an innovation in CE. That's another
Yeah.
reason you won this Lucy Hobbs Award. I mean, all these things that you're doing
Yeah.
are, and also we did a free dental day. We're going to finish up some of the patients at the OR and give them Sprig crowns for free. It's going to be great. Love being able to do that, but it feels so good to do dentistry for free. And
I love it.
it's just the feeling you get. Like the staff were like, what is into him today? And I got to show up and do what was best for the patient and help them out. And I got more thank yous than I do from parents in a regular day. And I said, no, thank you. Like I wouldn't have this feeling if you weren't willing to come and get this care for your child. So
Yeah.
I think it's great that you're, doing that and also incorporating education. I think that one's going to be a sold out one pretty quick. So hopefully cat wasn't out of the bag too soon for Cynthia with your programming. My last question is, what is your vision for the next 10 years?
10 years. That's a long time. Maybe really old in 10 years. Well, basically just to continue to innovate and build Sprig. That's definitely. Maybe I'll retire if they have no more need for me here at the organization. I think maybe just be a happy grandma at some point. and just continue to try to change the world by being the light and making a positive impact. So that's what I do. That's my purpose in life. So yeah, pretty lucky
Well, that's
lady.
awesome. It's been fun to see what you guys did in the first 10. So, not to set the expectations too high, but
Yeah,
I,
we've got some good things coming. Yeah,
I'm
we've been
excited to see
working
what they
pretty
are.
hard. Yeah, cool.
So it should be a great journey. And, thanks again for coming out today. Congratulations again on this huge award from Benco. And you've got to have just so many people that are proud of you. You got to be proud of yourself, your kids, your family have to be so proud. And,
Yeah.
I'm proud. Congratulations. And thanks again for coming on the show.
Thank you, Jarod.
Thank you for listening to the Sprig podcast. If you enjoyed the show, be sure to subscribe, leave a review, and share on social media. If you have any questions or if you have a topic you would like to hear covered in a future episode, please email podcast@sprigusa.com.